Okay, and welcome back everyone to another figure review. Today we'll be looking at NECA Kratos and Atreus. This 2-pack retails for $55 and I got mine at the NECA eBay store, and I'll put that link in the description below. Just right off the bat, this is another great release from NECA. Every time you buy one of their products, it just feels like you're getting your money's worth with great sculpt work, great paint work and attention to detail, and some pretty good articulation as well. Mine came with a few QC issues, unfortunately, but they're pretty minor and I don't think they detract too much from the overall package. So let's take him off the stand, or take both of them off the stand, and take a closer look. Let's start off by taking a closer look at Atreus, Kratos' son. At first glance, you can already tell that NECA put a lot of care and attention to detail in the work, from the multiple washes used to bring out the different textures in the sculpt, to the actual choices in material that they use to represent different portions of the action figure. For instance, taking a look at Atreus here, you can actually feel that the cloth or the skirt feels like a leathery type of plastic, not only to facilitate articulation in his legs, but also purposefully done to represent his clothes. Even the string on the bow is made of real string, which I thought was also a good touch by NECA. Taking a look closer here at the paint detail, you can see that all the little details are brought out extremely well, even looking at the strings that tie around the lower part of his pants to the quiver that it's holding all of his arrows. And actually, one interesting thing is that NECA decided to make each arrow an individual piece, so each of those can be taken out and stored back in his quiver. He even has his hunting knife back here, which can be removed and stored in its sheath. And just overall, really great work in terms of paint work and sculpt work by NECA. Moving on to the articulation though, we start having a few problems, particularly with Atreus. NECA figures are usually on the larger side, and so I think their materials that they've choose to use for the joints, as well as the different parts of the body like the hips and the torso, is a bit more functional on a larger figure. For someone small like Atreus, when you move the joints, you can feel a little bit of give, in that the peg where the joint is placed, where the joint connects to the other part of the body, can actually bend a little bit as you move the arm, which it shouldn't be doing. Also, here is where the QC issues start a little bit. So starting from top to bottom, his head is on a ball joint, but mine's is, because of the material they've chosen to use, kind of connected, his head is kind of stuck to his neck, so that when you turn, I don't want to risk turning it any more than that, because you can see it won't go further due to it being stuck to the neck. There is also another joint at the base of the neck, but mine doesn't move that freely either. His arms can be opened up almost parallel to the ground. Can go all the way. Hold on, it's stuck here. This is kind of what I mean when, okay, let's just leave that alone for now. When I mean that for the smaller figures, their joints aren't too playable in that sense. His legs are also on ball joints, but because of the skirt, they have limited motion to the front and full range of motion out to the side. His feet are also on a double ball joint, or no, it's a swivel and peg, which allow him to move up and down, as well as a little bit of ankle pivot. His arms are double jointed and he can bend his elbows all the way up. And his wrists are on the smallest of swivel ball joints. And actually, let me see if I can show you here, but he can actually hold his arrows between his index and middle finger. Let me do this off camera for a second. Okay, and here we have Atreus in the best bow shooting pose that I could get him in. The limitation being that the string on the bow can't actually be pulled back, so it looks like he's about to shoot. But he does hold the arrow between his two fingers pretty nicely. So again, Atreus has a lot of sculpt work and paint work, which is to be expected from NECA, but the real limitations in his articulation due to the size as well as the softer materials that NECA tends to use limit his playability a little bit. But I don't think anyone got this set for Atreus alone, so let's move on and take a look at Kratos. And here we have Kratos, the god of war himself, and he looks great. Just as with Atreus, NECA did a wonderful job of picking out the details both in the sculpt work as well as their paint work. And again, the great choice of different material textures and feels carries through here as well, with his skirt having the softer, pliable, almost leather-like plastic materials. Same with the pauldrons here, and his Blades of Chaos using actual metal chains. And it just looks seamless with the metal chains combined with the really nice metallic silver paint that they also used for the chains on his forearms. Just taking a quick spin and look at the back of Kratos, you can see that no detail is left unincluded, and the detail really carries throughout the entire figure. Here is his hunting knife, which can be unsheathed, much like in Atreus. And yeah, overall, he just looks like he jumped straight out from the video game into action figure form. Bringing in the old Kratos from God of War 4 by NECA. I know a lot of people wanted to see the comparison between these two figures. And you can see that they've chosen to use a different paint scheme for this latest Kratos figure. For the previous one, they had stuck with the white ash-like skin that Kratos is so well known for. And here in the newest version, they've elected for just a very slight pinkish hue for his skin. I think the difference is exaggerated a little bit when you put them next to each other, but when looking at the new one itself, the skin doesn't look quite as pink. I will say though that the old figure, it looks like there's just one more round of dry brushing used to pick out some of the details in the belt area as well as in his beard. I know it's kind of hard to pick up on my camera, but just take my word for it, the paint job is maybe slightly better on the older version. But let me know what you guys think, which Kratos you would prefer. I think while the old one has maybe a slightly nicer paint job, the new one has a ton of accessories, which we'll take a look at, and you've got to have the Blades of Chaos. So that's all I'll say about that. So let's move on to articulation. His head is on a nice ball joint which has a lot of motion upwards, downwards, all the way left and to the right. His arms can be moved out to the side, almost parallel to the ground. He has a bicep swivel, as well as double jointed elbows, which give him slightly better than a 90-degree bend. On his waist, he has rotation and just the slightest bit of downward and backward movement, but not too much because of the way his costume hinders. His costume is pretty high up on his waist. And lastly, on the upper arms, he also has a swivel ball joint, which allows an excellent range of motion. In his legs, his hips can open about that far. They can go almost all the way forward. It's a little bit limited due to the waist, and his knees are also double jointed. Let's try on this leg. That one's a little bit stuck. There we go. Are double jointed and can go back, I think even further. There we go. All the way back. He also has a thigh swivel, which is hidden up beneath his skirt here on both sides, as well as an ankle swivel ball joint, which can move up a little bit and down just a little bit, as well as a toe hinge and a ankle swivel. So his articulation is pretty great. You're not going to get him in the most dynamic of poses when you compare to other lines like SH Figure Arts, but for NECA and for the price point, it's really great. So let's take a closer look at some of the accessories he comes with. Okay, let's take a look at Kratos' accessories. So first off, let's take a look at his Blades of Chaos, and they are awesome. I hope that the camera is picking up all of the details there, but they just look incredible. They're almost worth the price itself, in my opinion. They're just so awesome. The metal chain actually attaches to his arm. There is a very small hole in between one of the chains there that you can barely see, and it took me a while to find, but that's where his Blades of Chaos attach to, which is great. They can also be split in half. Let me do this 1 second here. And just like with the axe, they can be split in half so that you can slide them easily in and out of his hands. And that is just great. Kratos also comes with a different version of his Blades of Chaos. I haven't played God of War 4 yet, so I don't know the significance of these, but they do not have the chains, but they have just as much detail, and they look really great as well. The ones that he's currently holding have the sort of pattern that's also seen in his axe, whereas these are more of, there's no specific pattern there, but they also look great, and they can also be pulled apart so that they can be put very easily into his hands. He also comes with his axe that he came with in the last release. The only problem here is that my version, there's a small QC issue where it looks like they've glued the point where it actually splits, so I can't pull it apart and have it stored in the back here, and I can't really easily put it into the hands. So let me show you what I mean. If I take the axe from the previous Kratos figure that I have, it comes apart pretty easily in the middle, and it allows for easy insertion into his hands. So again, here's the new one, here's the old axe. Definitely not a deal breaker, but just a small QC issue. He also comes with extra sets of fists. I think NECA actually accidentally gave me an extra left weapon holding hand, and it also comes with two fists for punching. The next accessory is an alternate head, and this head looks just menacing. You can almost see there's so much depth in the sculpt. You can almost see all the way down to the back of his mouth. It's just really great and really believable, and it's a great expression. It's probably the better of the two heads, but I just like a more stern look on my figures. Lastly, he also comes with several effect parts. Firstly, he comes with this ice swinging part, which can be attached to the axe like so. Oops, sorry about that. Attached to the axe like so. And he also comes with a bunch of fire effect parts. These two look like they're actually for fists, but you can place them over the Chaos Blade like that. And this one is actually looks like it's meant for the Chaos Blade, and you just place it in like so. So those are pretty great. Oops. Pretty great effect pieces as well. And then lastly, he again comes with his shield, which has a lot of awesome detail on it, and you just put that on just like before. You take off this closed version of the shield, and you can place this one, let me get this out of the way, on his forearm like so. Okay, and there you have it. This has been my review of NECA Kratos and Atreus. It's a great 2-pack. I personally picked this one up for Kratos, but Atreus is kind of a good addition too. You just have to know that he's not the most playable figure due to his size, but Kratos is just awesome. The Blades of Chaos are just great, and overall it's a really high quality product, so I definitely recommend it. If you'd like to see more reviews, go ahead and click the subscribe button, and I'll be posting more video reviews of action figures, Legos, Transformers, anime figures, all sorts of things. So if you're interested, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.